front of me, what I have is a regular photograph, right? So most of the time in Photoshop, we've got these photographs, we're doing whatever we want to do. Along comes your graphic designer. Let's say you get a job and you're working in a creative department, and along comes this person who's like, hey, I've got a logo for you. The client sent in a logo. Can you put it on top of the photo? And you're just going to go, huh? What? And you look at the file format, and it's a different file format. It's a file format from a program called Adobe Illustrator, which is, one of the world's standard graphic design software. So the deal with these logos over here in Adobe Illustrator is they're vectors. They're not going to act the same way. So you're over here in Photoshop, kind of enjoying your day, and along comes this graphic designer who says, hey, put the logo, it's an Illustrator file, I'm emailing it to you, put it in. You're going to go, huh? What do I do? And you're going to remember, oh yeah, in my digital media Photoshop class, I learned how to place a smart object. So this is how you're going to do it. You're going to go to File, and instead of opening it up, what happens when I open it up? It's going to act differently. File, open. Oh, come back. It's going to act differently, so I'm not going to do that. I want to go to File, File Place, which is normally here, Edit, Import. Of course, it's not here right when I want it.
They have place embedded and place linked now. I think they don't just have regular place.
I know, where my eye just, oh, that's why, because I'm always looking for the word place, and then you're totally correct. So you can place it where it embeds it in the file, and you don't lose it, or you can place it with a linked. So if you're working on a team who might be updating your files, placing it linked is going to be helpful to you. If you're not, and you might lose files on your computer, and you're going to open this up somewhere else, place it embedded and save yourself the sanity. So that's going to bring up my kind of file window to browse for objects. So I actually saved a nice handy little file on my desktop called Smart Vectors. So that's going to let me place in an Adobe Illustrator file. So I'm going to hit place. That's going to come in as a smart object. So what is a smart object, you might be wondering. Smart object means it can go back initially and be re-edited. When I place it in, you'll notice, first of all, it's going to come in like this, and I have to hit kind of the return key to officially place it. The way you know it's smart is over here on your layer panel, there is this weird little icon that kind of is supposed to basically tell you that it's smart. What that means, if I double click it, after editing the content, choose File Save to commit the changes. Basically that means you can go back. So notice I just got jumped back to Illustrator without meaning to. Okay, so what that means is if I'm in Illustrator and I double click on this file that I've placed, it automatically brings me to Adobe Illustrator where I can do changes and then hop back to Photoshop and my changes will show up. Like let's change this font color to dark blue. There we go. And then we're going to hop back to Photoshop, and usually, well, I think I have to save it. Hold on. I have to hit File Save, and then I won't have to re-import it. In a perfect world, it should just show up. Normally, that's how it's supposed to work with Adobe, but I might have to click like Update. And then, how do you want to proceed? Keep changes, discard changes, preserving. Keep changes, reducing illustrators. I'm going to click OK. No. Keep changes. Stop. It's supposed to update in Photoshop. That's the idea of this whole smart object thing. Of course, right as I demonstrate to you, it doesn't work. Wonderful. The other thing you can do is, oh, no, it went away. Where's my changes? So you might find yourself, if you don't know Illustrator very well, wondering why your changes are or are not showing up. The theory with Adobe here is that you edit an object and then your changes are going to reflect anywhere it's been placed. Oh, I didn't place a linked file. That's why. Okay. So if I place a linked file, it'll update. If I place it, I did an embedded file for you guys, didn't I? So we'll try that. So if you do place embedded, no, place linked, place linked, place a linked file, any logo USA. Oh, and there it is with my changes. Gonna click OK. We're gonna put it in, right? So now it's here. This is a linked file. So if I press this one and I go into Illustrator, and now let's change that color from blue to green, and then we're just gonna hit save. And then when we hop back to Photoshop, the theory is it's gonna update. Aha, it worked. So if you place a linked file, when you edit the link, it will update. If you place an embedded file, like I did first and forgot that I did that, it won't update because you've embedded a copy into your Adobe Illustrator. So I actually don't really even want that file, but File, let's place another file in here. We've got the word we've got the word love. Let's place this word in here. I'm going to click OK, and I've got this vector file. I'm going to click a size here. So it's pretty easy to place an object into Adobe Illustrator, and then what I can do is still apply anything like transforming or scaling, any of kind of my effects, but it's going to keep my ability to edit by just kind of clicking over here, and I can hop back in, and it will again show up in Adobe Illustrator. So that's all fine. Let's place some objects in here, but we're going to place a few more. Let's place a linked one, and I'm going back to this any logo. I'm going to hit place, hit OK. Now I totally destroyed it earlier, so I need to edit it really quickly. So we're going to edit that, and what happened was I changed it from green to there we go. Now my logo is going to look back the way it was. Oh, no, I lost the whole logo. I can always re-download this if I need to. There we go. There's my logo, except for that one green thing. There we go. Perfect. File save. Your logo won't be distorted like mine because you won't be demonstrating. And then here it is. Perfect. So what you're going to notice here is that when I've placed this logo in here, this any logo ever, and you can't really hardly even see it because my photo is dark and the logo is dark. So you're going to have clients all the time send you stuff to go on top of a photo for whatever reason. You're building an ad or something, and it's not even going to look right. So this is where the layer effects palette's going to come in. So I'm going to show you how that works in just a second. Let me just place a couple more vector files in here. I think I have a sketchpad thing. This is a vector design. Maybe I want to decorate stuff. Maybe I'm doing invitation design. So I've got this kind of other thing, which again, you can't see this at all. It looks like it's a black file. So part of my picture is black. I'm just going to hit return. So now I've placed 3 objects in. Let's place one more. Let's see. What's this one? A star. We'll place a star. Here we've got this thing. The idea here is that you're not copying and pasting photos. You're placing in Adobe Illustrator files. And then I've got one other file that I wanted to place in, which is on my desktop, and it's in the other folder, Vector Smart Objects, and it's a skull from the Adobe Illustrator class. Oh, there's a couple more in here too. So I've got a skull to place here. So this is good enough. So I now have all these files, and I may not use them all, but for the sake of demonstrating, I'm going to show you them. I'm just going to turn them off. So let's start with this one, any logo ever, that some client gave me that when I put it in the lower corner, maybe I wanted to sign my name with it or something. You can't see it. So let's add some effects. So the layer palette effects are some of the funnest tools in Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop to edit stuff. So they work down here. They're hidden in this little tab that says effects. And if I click them, effects, let's start with a color overlay. If I want to very quickly change the color of my object, I've placed it on color overlay, which allows me to really choose any color, and it will just go over whatever I've placed into my file. So I've just decided to make it white because now I can kind of see it over here. Now the effects are going to act very convenient with eyeballs that I can turn on and turn off if I don't like their effects, okay? If I double click the effects tab, this whole window will pop up, and you can get really deep into this effects tab once you're used to it. If I click, let's say I want a drop shadow to show up, then I can make my object kind of appear. Do you guys see the shadow appearing? I can help you see it a lot more by adding a drop shadow. So these are just kind of canned drop shadows. Let's add it to, here's the skull. So let's add an effect, effects, and we're gonna do outer glow. So the outer glow is one of my all-time favorite effects. I overuse this quite a bit. And you can edit the color of the glow. Let's give it like a scary red glow. There we go. Here we go. Click OK. And so I can kind of just add. Now, this skull kind of looks like he's purple, and it doesn't really fit the scene. Let's make him look kind of like a scary-looking skull on a pirate island. So color overlay, white. Let's kind of make it kind of like a yellowish thing. And I've got opacity controls on my color overlays. I have the same blending modes, which we haven't talked a ton about yet, but we'll get into that. I have all these little options to control how my effects look. Now let's say this outer glow isn't working and I want it to look photorealistic. I can add a drop shadow. Let's turn off the glow. And you guys kind of see the shadow appearing. I can move that shadow around by controlling the angle. I can control the distance. See how it's getting really, really big or really, really small. So I've got all these little controls to make stuff pop out. So really, if you're gonna place an object from Illustrator or a file somebody's given you, and it's dark over white or white over dark, you need to do something. Like this one, I can't see it at all because it's over a dark photograph. So immediately I'm gonna go into my effects palette, and I've got lots of options. Let's start with the outer glow. If I add a red glow, I still can't really see it. Can add a green glow. You know, you want to kind of use your design and composition skills at this point, because some of this stuff you wouldn't want to apply it, even though it looks cool. I've got red, orange. So I just kind of click OK when I find what I want. I actually don't want to glow at all. Let's just hit no. Let's try a color overlay. And this is going to affect my entire image, but I have to put it on 100%, and then I have to click it on normal. So that's actually going to work really well, because I could use this as a border, or I could make a whole new picture from this illustrated image, but I can apply cool things to it without having to go back into Illustrator. Let's say I don't know Adobe Illustrator. Let's try adding something else. Instead of a color overlay, let's try adding a cool gradient effect. So Photoshop has all these cool gradients waiting for you that you can just kind of apply and give stuff a little more visual kick. If you want to, you can even edit your gradients down here below. Let's see here. I've got it set to green and black. I can double click the black. I can choose any color that I want. Let's make it blue. And same thing with this. Here's the green. I'm double clicking it. And now I'm making it kind of a light blue. So you have lots of control here to do different things. I'm going to add a shadow to this. And I'm going to say the shadow is too big. I can kind of make it a soft shadow. Shadow and drop shadow and glow are the ones I use probably the most out of anything in here. You also have cool little bevel effects. Let me show you guys those. Let's close out. Let's grab this word love here and make this nice and big. So here's my Illustrator file that somebody gave me. Actually, I made it, but I'm going to click FX. I'm going to click, let's start with a color overlay. And then let's add a bevel. This is kind of looking boring without all the color. So bevel is another one that used to be really, really popular. You still see it, but not as much. It's going to let you kind of make your stuff look kind of 3D. And it's going to add shadows. You can make it look embossed. You've got an inner bevel. You've got an outer bevel. You guys have kind of seen this 3D effect happening. There's plugins for it too now. But you have all these cool effects. You've got texture happening, which can kind of give it a little more. I don't like the texture on that particular one, so you can choose different textures by just kind of going in. The best way to learn all these effects and what they do is literally just open them up and start playing with them. That's really the #1 way to learn. Let's say I don't want this to be 100% white. I want it to kind of be pastel. So suddenly I could do all this image editing inside of my effects panel without ever having to learn Adobe Illustrator, and I'm just dealing with a logo that somebody gave me to place in. I also have a stroke ability if I want to. I can add strokes, and it's set to inside. Right now I'm going to set it to outside, and let's give it a purple stroke. There we go. And so you've got the ability to add strokes, all sorts of stuff. If you get text that's really thin, I like to add a stroke so that it just kind of looks a little bigger until you can actually read it. There we go. So you can see I have all these tools. I've got an inner shadow, more stuff than I have time to really go over. So the best thing is for you guys to open this up and kind of start exploring. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to download the files for this module, and you're basically going to place in, there's a bunch of different Illustrator files that you can place in. You're going to place in 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you want, and you're going to start applying effects, shadows, glows, bevels, color overlays, just so you get the feel of using this, and then when you're done, you're going to turn it in. So go ahead right now, turn your computers on, and you're good to go.